Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bio Vanguard Cell Talk presentation. Today's presenter is Madhuri, and she is going to present on the topic dietary factors and cardiovascular diseases, comprehensive insights from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey from 2017 to 2018 from Mendelian randomization analysis. Before the presentation, I would like to introduce Madhuri. Madhuri holds an bachelor's degree in microbiology from Ramlal and Anand College, and she holds a master's program in nutrition biology at the University of Central Haryana, and she is in the final semesters of her master's program. And her academic journey has honed her expertise in microbiological techniques, food quality analysis, and the core principles of nutrition sciences. Through this fellowship, she is looking forward to acquiring advanced scientific and research qualities, which will help expanding her knowledge base and empowering her to contribute high impact scholarly publication as well as aiding in thesis writing. I warmly welcome Madhuri to start our presentation.
Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. My topic is on dietary factors and cardiovascular disease relationship, which is checked by the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey of the year 2017 to 2022, as well as Mendelian randomization analysis. So let me begin. What this paper is basically is studying over is on cardiovascular disease, which includes coronary artery disease, heart failure, stroke, hypertension, which are, as we know, is the leading cause of global mortality, accounting for approximately more than 17 million deaths annually. So there has been a lot of studies which have explored the role of dietary components, because we know that there is a high chances that our diet is directly or indirectly related to cardiovascular disease and many of the related problems like diabetes, which can cause obesity, which can cause ultimately the risk of having heart problems. So but there has been inconsistency in the findings. So, given the limitation of observational studies and the impracticability of conducting large-scale randomized controlled trials, which are known as RCT, this study has basically chosen for working on Mendelian randomization, which is kind of a novel approach to infer causal relationship between the dietary factors and the cardiovascular disease risk. So here is how I'm showing the representation of what is actually happening in the study. That is basically macronutrient intake, which is carbohydrate, protein, and fat, has a direct relationship to the cardiovascular disease risk. And this has been taken from the data from National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey 2017 to 2020, as well as genome-associated studies, genome-related studies. So, what happens in this study is the participants are taken from NHANES from 2017 to March 2020 pre-pandemic data, and they are being excluded on the basis of maybe they have no data on the macronutrients, or no data on cardiovascular disease, or no data of the covariates. And finally, they have included these number of value, which is a large number, n is equal to 5464. And they have taken for Mendelian randomization, they have taken different assumptions, which is based on independence and exclusivity, correlation, which are basically checking the genetic relationship of the dietary factors with the cardiovascular disease related, heart disease, coronary artery disease, these type of relationship. So how the study is basically working on is they have taken two-pronged approach to investigate the association between those two factors, which I have already discussed, NHANES and Mendelian randomization. The observational study provided association between these two studies, and MR analysis is basically working on to identify the causal relationship between the genetic variables and the instrumental variables, because we know that there can be a lot of variables which can cause bias in the study. So these type of data is taken from Mendelian randomization. So how the data is being collected, that macronutrient intake was assessed using 24-hour dietary recall method. Then nutrient intake is being calculated using USDA's food and nutrient database, and there were different type of covariates which are being used for identifying the to plot the graph, basically the graph to identify the relationship. So demographic factors were age, sex, race, ethnicity, education level, income level. Lifestyle factors can be physical activity, smoking, alcohol intake, because directly or indirectly, this is having a significant relationship with the cardiovascular disease. We have a vague idea about this. So these variants have to be taken for finding out the actual and to find the data. And clinical factors, which is BMI, as I have already said, that obesity has a direct relationship. Then blood pressure level, cholesterol level, diabetes history. These are all the factors to be considered while checking for cardiovascular, heart related problems and diet related relationship. Then for Mendelian randomization, single nucleotide polymorphism were checked, and because that has a significant association with carbohydrate with the macronutrients, basically, which are taken as instrumental variables, and they are being filtered by p-value threshold, independence, and value. Next, statistical analysis is basically done by multivariate logistic regression models, which is basically checking the association by, as I said, adjusted by covariates to minimize the confounding, and quartiles is being formed, which is lowest to highest intake is being plotted basically. And two sample MR analysis was performed to assess the causal relation between these two variants, and these are some of the methods which are being taken basically for estimating the relationship. And R software is being used, and P less than 0.05 was considered. So what was the basic result? Basic result was by the observation analysis, there was a high fat, what it stated was high fat intake was inversely associated with the heart failure risk, because if we have a heart failure risk, and higher protein intake was associated with lower risk of heart failure, stroke, and coronary artery disease. So because we know that because carbohydrate has a direct relationship, and protein intake was associated with lower risk of heart failure, but inversely associated with heart failure. Maybe it's basically talking about polyunsaturated fatty acid, because we know that it has a good relationship with the heart health. And again, Mendelian randomization, increased fat intake was causally linked to lower heart failure and coronary artery disease risk. This is basically shown by this multivariable adjusted logistic regression graph, which shows that carbohydrate, they have prepared three models. And first model, I think I have smart models. Okay. Model first, which was taking heart failure and carbohydrate relationship, that has a very significant relationship, that yes, carbohydrate, if that is a high intake, then heart failure is a direct relationship it has. And then and same with model 2, but model 3 has no significant relationship. And fat, again, model 1 and model 2 is showing a good less than p less than 0.05 value. And same with protein, coronary artery disease is showing no such value, which I have shown in the box. And same with stroke, the stroke condition. Then in case of this NHANES data, it has shown that by heart failure and carbohydrate then stroke, coronary artery disease. These have no significant, basically because of this, data has not shown such a significant relationship. And same with fat has shown lower risk, then no significant association, uh, no causal effect of heart failure, Mendelian randomization. And NHANES data, key observational findings were higher fat intake was associated with a lower risk of heart failure, and higher protein intake was associated with lower risk of. So these are basically the two observational finding which is being found out by this data, which this data has specifically showed that these values. And carbohydrate and sugar intake show no significant association with any CVT outcome. So these were the values. And Mendelian randomization, it was showing that increased fat intake was casually associated with a lower risk of heart failure and coronary artery disease. And higher protein intake was casually linked to a lower risk of stroke and hypertension. So this is a causal effect relationship of dietary factors on cardiovascular disease by Mendelian randomization. And this is the statistical significance it has been showing. So the blue dot represent no statistical significance. So this is the OR, 95% CL, heart failure, coronary artery disease, relative fat intake. And next was sensitivity analysis to ensure the validity of the Mendelian randomization factors. These were the three tests being done. And heterogeneity and graph for heterogeneity is related to gender. They are for the genetic taken. So these were the tests. So no significant indicated that genetic variants were valid instrumental variants. And similarly, MR-EGR intercept test, no evidence of horizontal pleiotropy has been shown. And comparison of observational and MR results were being taken, and they confirmed these similar values. So conclusion was both observational and MR analysis suggest that dietary fat intake is inversely associated with heart failure risk, while protein intake is linked to a lower risk of stroke and hypertension. These findings highlight the need for further research to establish the optimal macronutrient balance for cardiovascular, which is significantly showing the relationship with the cardiovascular health, and which can help in the hospital data as well, and for treatment of the people who with the risk of cardiovascular with relationship any other health factors and factors that are possible. And future studies should focus on mechanistic pathways, long-term dietary interventions, and personalized nutrition strategies for CVD prevention. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Audience, do you have any queries to ask Madhuri? I think there are no queries. Yeah, thank you everyone for attending the session.